Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have another scrapbook layout to share with you. As I've said in a previous video, I'm hoping to do one of these maybe every month. I'm just wanting to document a few things in my kids' lives, mainly their birthdays, and a few other little experiences. I'm super happy with this layout and mostly because I made most of it myself. I'm going to show you how I did it. For those of you familiar with the Cricut, you'll notice that I'm using my design space here. And to get these hexagons, all I needed to do was select shapes. The hexagon shape, I made it the size that I wanted, and then I just started duplicating and duplicating and duplicating until I had quite a few, and then I grouped them together to duplicate those ones so I could do it as a massive group. After doing all that, and when I realized that I had enough, I went back to shapes and grabbed a square. This time I grabbed a square that was, I think, 11.5 by 11.5 inches, so it was just slightly smaller than a scrapbook size piece of cardstock. And as you can see, I put it behind my honeycomb and was able to slice this so that I had this pattern. I hope that makes sense. It's really hard for me to describe. That's why I do it in a video. I'm much better at showing things, and I myself am a visual learner. Here I am just doing a bit more slicing and deciding which way this was going to work best. I needed to work out which one was going to cut the page the way I wanted it to, and this was the piece that I needed. So as you can see, when I go to make this one, this is what it's going to look like on that 12 by 12 piece of paper. It's perfect, it fit amazingly, and it was going to cut it just like this. This is exactly as I envisioned it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So I cut this one twice because I knew that I needed 2 pages for this group of photos. So I'm just about to get started on decorating this page, and if you're wondering why bees and what's with these stamps, I've started getting educational subscription boxes for my son and I so that we've got something to do on his days at home. He is a very smart little boy and needs to be kept very busy, or else total chaos. And I thought if I took photos of what we do for these activities, then documenting them in a scrapbook is a really good way to get my skills up, because scrapbooking has changed a lot in the last few years and I'm way behind. So I'm just running my powder tool over the areas that I want to use these stamps. These stamps came with the box. It was a bee theme box if that wasn't already obvious, but I thought it would be cute to include them in this layout. I'm really happy that they worked. I've never worked with wooden stamps before. They are designed for Play-Doh, so I really didn't know how they were going to turn out. I did them one at a time to make sure that I had the time to get them straight and neat. I'm using some Ranger Gold embossing powder for these, and taking them over to my heat tool in the kitchen to emboss them. The night before I started this background, I did a little trial run with the embossing powder and my watercolor pigments to see which shade of gold matched the embossing ink best, because I wanted to add some gold flecks to this background and I really wanted the colors to be as similar as possible. I am just obsessed with these watercolors. I'm not usually a big fan of gold, but I have been adding them to everything. I just love them and I love how shiny they are. So this is me taking some of my card making skills, if that's what you can call them, and applying them to my scrapbook layout. And as you can see, once I put that layer on top, my background isn't so plain. Now this was a little bit exciting. I've literally never done anything like this before at all. I think I used the program Fresco. I will have to confirm, and I will talk about that another time. But just know that this beehive was drawn by me. I did the whole thing. I did all the little layers. I worked it out, and I am really not very good at working these little programs out, these drawing programs, all those brushes and colors and sizes and everything. It's a little bit overwhelming, but I gave it a go. I did this little scribble and it turned out really cute. And here I am just picking out the colors so that I know which colored cardstock to add on my mat when it's cutting out all the different pieces. Now on to some other elements of this scrapbook layout. I'm a huge fan of lawn fawn, if that's not already evident by the rest of my channel, and I had to include something lawn fawn in this. Not too long ago I made a really cute card, a bee themed card, but I used these little fireflies. And so here I am doing the same thing I did last time when I made that card, adding some extra lines onto these little stamped images to turn these fireflies into the cutest little bees. They are so simple to colour in. There's really only 4 colours total, including the cheeks. And then just like all my coloured images, I go over them with some white details just to give these characters some dimension. And as you can see, I went a little bit overboard and I made a whole bunch of these little cuties. I knew I wanted quite a few for the layout, but I didn't know how many, so I thought better to have more than not enough. I printed out my photos on a Canon selfie, and here I am just trimming them so that I can fit them in my honeycomb. I lined them up with some of the offcuts and cut them slightly bigger. This was because they were going to slip behind the honeycomb frames that I had made, and I wanted it to look as seamless as possible. Just before I glued these down, I knew I wanted to add some words to my layout, so I had to do that before I glued down my honeycomb. To do this, I went back to my design space, typed out all my wording, placed them on the hexagons that I wanted them to be written on, grouped them together so that they look like this. I know this part is really tricky to see because everything is the same color, but because they were grouped, when I moved them in one piece, they moved to each of their hexagons that I needed them to without having to do that individually. And then I could hide that main piece with all the hexagons, so it was just a plain piece of cardstock, which was my background, and then my Cricut would write them in the exact spots that I needed them to go. I know that's a little bit tricky, and I will probably do a bit more of this in the future and learn how to describe it a bit better, because that description was total chaos. But here's my Cricut writing out my words. Now this was the only bit that I didn't actually draw. I went onto Google and found a free BSVG. I trimmed off the bits that I didn't need, like the antennas and everything, and then I welded it to a rectangle so that I could have my writing on the rectangle, and then it would do like this decorative edging to it in a B shape. I really like how this turned out. I used the snap map feature for that. If you haven't been using that, make sure you learn how to do it because it is just amazing. It opens up so many more options to what you can do with your Cricut. I chopped out all the pieces that I needed for my beehive with my Cricut, and if I were to do this again, I'd probably do it a little bit differently. I had thought that I didn't need all of the brown pieces in this cardstock, but I really wanted to layer my yellow onto that, and if I had it layered up nice and thick, then you'd see underneath that it was white. So I filled it all back in with the brown. It really wasn't too much of a drama, but it was just something that I need to remember for next time. So once all that was back in, I then started layering my yellow paper. I used a really cute heart pattern paper by Amy Tangerine. It is just really, really cute. Looking back at this beehive, yes, the lines aren't perfect, and it looks a little bit messy, and it looks like it could have been drawn by hand, because it was, but I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I really can't wait to make more designs in programs like that. I'm working on a space one now, so hopefully that one will turn out, and I'll be able to show you that one soon. I began filling in some more of these little honeycomb pieces with my photos. I use my favorite tape runner for this because this stuff isn't permanent until it really has a little while to set, so I had some time to move them around, which was really handy because I'm really not good with lining things up. As you can see, I do move the pictures around quite a bit before I'm happy with their placement. I really enjoyed putting this one together. I loved looking back at the activities that we had done and all the things that we had learned during the week. I learned so much about bees that I had never even heard of before. If you're at all interested in the subscription boxes that I have mentioned, I'll put all the info for that in my blog. They are an Aussie company, which I just love supporting Aussie small business. The box was lots of fun. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I just really enjoy what they have and love that my son loves them and that it's something that just he and I can work on. Plus, it was a great excuse to take lots of photos and work out a theme for some scrapbook pages. And with that last little bee, both pages were complete. I'm really happy with how these turned out. They don't look overly exciting, but I've learned so much in making these, from designing my own backgrounds and drawing my own cut files. It's all very exciting. I'm really happy with how these turned out. And I hope you like it too. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like this video or if you'd like to see me do more scrapbook layouts. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more of what I come up with soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.